Chapter 1 of Book 2 of De Anima by Aristotle, translated by R.D. Hicks. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Jeffrey Edwards. Chapter 1. So much for the theories of soul handed down by our predecessors. Let us then make a fresh start and try to determine what soul is and what will be its most comprehensive definition. Now, there is one class of existent things which we call substance, including under the term, firstly, matter, which in itself is not this or that; secondly, shape or form, in virtue of which the term this or that is at once applied; thirdly, the whole made up of matter and form. Matter is identical with potentiality, form with actuality, and there are two meanings of actuality. Knowledge illustrates the one, exercise of knowledge the other. Now bodies, above all things, are held to be substances, particularly such bodies as are the work of nature, for to these all the rest owe their origin. Of natural bodies, some possess life, and some do not, where by life we mean the power of self-nourishment and of independent growth and decay. Consequently, every natural body possessed of life must be substance, and substance of the composite order. And since in fact we have here body with a certain attribute, namely the possession of life, the body will not be the soul. For the body is not an attribute of a subject, it stands rather for a subject of attributes, that is, matter. It must follow, then, that soul is substance in the sense that it is the form of a natural body having in it the capacity of life. Such substance is actuality. The soul, therefore, is the actuality of the body above described. But the term actuality is used in two senses. In the one, it answers to knowledge, in the other to the exercise of knowledge. Clearly, in this case it is analogous to knowledge, for sleep, as well as waking, implies the presence of soul, and, whilst waking is analogous to the exercise of knowledge, sleep is analogous to the possession of knowledge without its exercise. And in the same individual, the possession of knowledge comes in order of time before its exercise. Hence soul is the first actuality of a natural body having in it the capacity of life. And a body which is possessed of organs answers to this description. We may note that the parts of plants, as well as those of animals, are organs, though of a very simple sort. For instance, a leaf is the sheath of the pod, and the pod of the fruit. The roots again are analogous to the mouths of animals, both serving to take in nourishment. If, then, we have to make a general statement touching soul in all its forms, the soul will be the first actuality of a natural body furnished with organs. Hence there is no need to inquire whether soul and body are one any more than whether the wax and the imprint are one, or, in general, whether the matter of a thing is the same with that of which it is the matter. For of all the various meanings borne by the terms unity and being, actuality is the meaning which belongs to them by the fullest right. It has now been stated in general terms what soul is, namely, substance as notion or form. And this is the quiddity of such and such a body. Suppose, for example, that any instrument, say an axe, were a natural body. Its axity would be its substance, would in fact be its soul. If this were taken away, it would cease, except in an equivocal sense, to be an axe. But the axe is after all an axe, for it is not of a body of this kind that the soul is the quiddity, that is, the notion or form, but of a natural body of a particular sort, having in itself the origination of motion and rest. Further, we must view our statement in the light of the parts of the body. For if the eye were an animal, eyesight would be its soul, this being the substance as notion or form of the eye. The eye is the matter of eyesight, and in default of eyesight it is no longer an eye, except equivocally, like an eye in stone or in a picture. What has been said of the part must be understood to apply to the whole living body, for as the sensation of a part of the body is to that part, so is sensation as a whole to the whole sentient body as such. By that which has in it the capacity of life is meant not the body which has lost its soul, but that which possesses it. Now, the seed in animals, like the fruit in plants, is that which is potentially such and such a body. As, then, the cutting of the axe or the seeing of the eye is full actuality, so too is the waking state, while the soul is actuality in the same sense as eyesight, and the capacity of the instrument. The body, on the other hand, is simply that which is potentially existent, but just as in the one case the eye means the pupil in conjunction with the eyesight, so in the other, soul and body together constitute the animal. Now, it needs no proof that the soul, or if it is divisible into parts, certain of its parts, cannot be separated from the body, for there are cases where the actuality belongs to the parts themselves. There is, however, no reason why some parts should not be separated if they are not the actualities of any body whatever. Again, it is not clear whether the soul may not be the actuality of the body as the sailor is of the ship. This, then, may suffice for an outline or provisional sketch of soul. Chapter 2. But as it is from the things which are naturally obscure, though more easily recognized by us, that we proceed to what is clear and, in the order of thought, more knowable, we must employ this method in trying to give a fresh account of soul. For it is not enough that the defining statement should set forth the fact, as most definitions do. It should also contain and present the cause, whereas in practice what is stated in the definition is usually no more than a conclusion. For example, what is quadrature? The construction of an equilateral rectangle equal in area to a given oblong. But such a definition expresses merely the conclusion, whereas if you say that quadrature is the discovery of a mean proportional, then you state the reason. We take, then, as our starting point for discussion that it is life which distinguishes the animate from the inanimate, but the term life is used in various senses, and if life is present in but a single one of these senses, we speak of a thing as living. Thus there is intellect, sensation, motion from place to place and rest, the motion concerned with nutrition, and, further, decay and growth. Hence it is that all plants are supposed to have life, for apparently they have within themselves a faculty and principle whereby they grow and decay in opposite directions. For plants do not grow upwards without growing downwards, they grow in both directions equally. In fact, in all directions, as many as are constantly nourished, and therefore continue to live so long as they are capable of absorbing nutriment. This form of life can be separated from the others, though in mortal creatures the others cannot be separated from it. In the case of plants, the fact is manifest, for they have no other faculty of soul at all. It is, then, in virtue of this principle that all living things live, whether animals or plants, but it is sensation primarily which constitutes the animal, for, provided they have sensation, even those creatures which are devoid of movement and do not change their place are called animals, and are not merely said to be alive. Now, the primary sense in all animals is touch. But as the nutritive faculty may exist without touch, or any form of sensation, so also touch may exist apart from the other senses. By nutritive faculty, we mean the part of the soul in which even plants share. Animals, however, are found universally to have the sense of touch. Why this is so in each of the two cases will be stated hereafter. For the present, it may suffice to say that the soul is the origin of the functions above enumerated, and is determined by them, namely, by capacities of nutrition, sensation, thought, and by motion. But whether each one of these is a soul, or part of a soul, and, if a part, whether it is only logically distinct or separable in space also, is a question, the answer to which is in some cases not hard to see. Other cases present difficulties. For just as in the case of plants, some of them are found to live when divided and separated from each other, which implies that the soul in each plant, though actually one, is potentially several souls. So too, when insects or annelida are cut up, we see the same thing happen with other varieties of soul. I mean, each of the segments has sensation and moves from place to place. And if it has sensation, it has also imagination and appetency. For where there is sensation, there is also pleasure and pain, and where these are, desire also must of necessity be present. But as regards intellect and the speculative faculty, the case is not yet clear. It would seem, however, to be a distinct species of soul, and it alone is capable of separation from the body, as that which is eternal from that which is perishable. The remaining parts of the soul are, as the foregoing consideration shows, not separable in the way that some allege them to be. At the same time, it is clear that they are logically distinct, for the faculties of sensation and of opinion, taken in the abstract, are distinct, since to have sensation and to opine are distinct. And so it is likewise with each of the other faculties above mentioned. Again, while some animals possess all these functions, others have only some of them, others only one. It is this which will differentiate animal from animal. The reason why this is so must be investigated hereafter. The case is similar with the several senses. Some animals have all of them, others some of them, others again only one, the most indispensable, that is, touch. Now, quote, that by which we live and have sensation, close quote, is a phrase with two meanings, answering to the two meanings of, quote, that by which we know, close quote. The latter phrase means firstly, knowledge, and secondly, soul, by either of which we say we know. Similarly, that by which we have health means either health itself, or a certain part, if not the whole, of the body. Now of these, knowledge and health are the shape and in some sort form the notion and virtual activity of that which is capable of receiving in the one case knowledge, in the other health. That is to say, it is in that which is acted upon or conditioned that the activity of the causal agencies would seem to take effect. Now the soul is that whereby primarily we live, perceive, and have understanding. Therefore, it will be a species of notion or form, not matter or substratum. Of the three meanings of substance mentioned above, form, matter, and the whole made up of these two, matter is potentiality, and form is actuality. And since the whole made up of the two is endowed with soul, the body is not the actuality of soul, but soul the actuality of a particular body. Hence, those are right who regard the soul as not independent of body, and yet at the same time as not itself a species of body. It is not body, but something belonging to body, and therefore resides in body, and, what is more, in such and such a body. Our predecessors were wrong in endeavouring to fit the soul into a body without further determination of the nature and qualities of that body. Although we do not even find that of any two things taken at random, the one will admit the other, and this result is what we might expect, for the actuality of each thing comes naturally to be developed in the potentiality of each thing, in other words, in the appropriate matter. From these considerations, then, it is manifest that soul is a certain actuality, a notion or form of that which has the capacity to be endowed with soul. Chapter 3. Of the powers of soul above mentioned, namely, those of nutrition, appetency, sensation, locomotion, and understanding, some living things, as we remarked, possess all, others some, others again only one. Plants possess the nutritive faculty only. Other things, along with this, have sensation, and if sensation, then also appetency, where under appetency we include desire, anger, and wish. But all animals have at least one sense, touch, and where sensation is found, there is pleasure and pain, and that which causes pleasure and pain, and where these are, there also is desire, desire being appetite for what is pleasurable. Again, they have a sensation concerned with nutriment, touch being such a sense, for it is by what is dry and moist, hot and cold, that all living things are nourished, and these qualities are perceived by touch, whereas the other sensibles are not, except incidentally, for sound, colour, and odour contribute nothing to nutriment, while flavour is one of the tangible objects. Hunger again and thirst are forms of desire, the one for what is hot or dry, the other for what is cold or moist. Flavour is, as it were, the seasoning of these. We will deal with these in detail hereafter. At present, let it suffice to say that all animals which have the sense of touch are also endowed with appetency. Whether they have imagination is not clear. This too must be considered later. Some have in addition the power of locomotion. Others, that is to say, man and any other species like man, or possibly superior to him, have also the thinking faculty and intellect. From this it is clear that there is one definition of soul exactly as there is one definition of figure. For there is in the one case no figure excepting triangle, quadrilateral, and the rest. Nor is there in the other any species of soul apart from those above mentioned. Again, a definition might be constructed which should apply to all figures, but not specially to any species of figure, and similarly with the species of soul above enumerated. Hence it would be absurd, here as elsewhere, to seek a general definition which will not be properly a definition of anything in existence, and will not be applicable to the particular irreducible species before us, to the neglect of the definition which is so applicable. The types of soul resemble the series of figures. For alike in figures and in things animate, the earlier form exists potentially in the later, as for instance the triangle potentially in the quadrilateral, and the nutritive faculty in that which has sensation, so that we must examine in each case separately what is the soul of plant, of man, or of beast. Why they are related in this order of succession remains to be considered.